Now there's sort of a whole new generation of technology solutions that can help tell the story of those benefits, what they do, the value of them.
Hello, and welcome to the Workforce Newsroom. I'm Ashley Avanzato. Businesses of all sizes are gearing up for open enrollment at a time when worker expectations have shifted significantly. How can employers ensure their benefits remain competitive enough to attract and retain top talent? Well, joining me today to talk through this issue from both the talent and tech perspectives is ADP's Chief Talent Officer, Jay Caldwell. Jay, welcome. And Sina Shirazi, CEO and co-founder of benefits experience platform Naya. Sina, welcome. Thank you both for joining us. Jay, I'd love to start with you in setting the scene. How would you describe the ways that we are seeing worker expectations shift today in terms of the benefit offerings?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the expectations of workers are shifting, generally speaking, whether it's benefits or any relationship that they have with their employer. And it's putting a lot of pressure on employers as well. And Sina, I know you're a small business owner, growing business, and I'm sure you feel a lot of this, but there are a few things that I think are really relevant right now. One is inflation. The second is careers, and employees really looking at their employers as a place where, one, given, again, the environment that we're in right now, job security is very, very important for workers today. But also employees thinking about how they can grow their careers with the employers that they're spending, most of their waking hours with. A third is flexibility, the desire that employees have to have choice and autonomy in how they work, where they work, what type of work they do.
No, I would agree with you. And I think as an HR practitioner myself, I see it every day in speaking with not only my associates, but my leaders in terms of how to navigate, right, this new ever-changing landscape of what people are expecting out of their careers. And so staying on that topic, Sina, a question for you in terms of how are we influencing the way that workers and HR practitioners are really approaching benefits? What are you seeing from your clients?
If we look at the last 10 years, has there ever been as much change in so many facets of life? I mean, you touched on it. Employee benefits is no different. I mean, if we look at the industry itself, gosh, plans have changed, costs have gone up, deductibles have gone up, and at the same time, in the outside world, the consumer is going through entirely new experiences. I think the way that employees and HR leaders alike are starting to approach employee benefits is sort of the merging of these two things. The first one is empowering workers with information that is relevant to them at the time they want it, at the time they need it. That personalized approach that we're seeing in employee benefits is starting to follow what we've seen in just so many other parts of modern life. It's a more personalized era that we're entering in where, between technology and the products and everything else, people can have completely different consumer experiences than they had at any point in time.
Yeah, I love that thought. And I have to also say that in terms of the approach that they're taking, we call that moments that matter here at ADP, right? Those milestones that are super important to the associate and to the leaders where they can actually pull upon, right, what's happening within their own life using data and other, analytic points that we have to try to help them. Jay, my next question for you on this topic in terms of what are employers looking for in terms of criteria, in terms of how they're selecting those benefits?
Yeah, it's I think part of it's experience. And as you mentioned, Sina, how do you meet your employees where they are and give a personalized and relevant experience? I'll step back though for employers as well. It's really important to think about strategy. So what is your talent strategy at the end of the day? And what's the purpose of that is first and foremost is to win in the talent market, right? You want to find the best people for your organization, bring them into your organization and keep them. So I think one of the most important things to think about is what competitive advantage are you trying to create from a talent strategy perspective. Another is, and this is becoming more complex, is the composition of your workforce. So what is the makeup in terms of the different generations in your workforce, the different life stages that your workforce is in?
When it comes to benefits and the offerings, larger companies are typically pulling upon the HR professionals, right? The pros to be able to focus on what those employee benefits are. So my question for you, Sina, in this business is, what can HR leaders do to really anticipate the needs for planning in terms of the benefit process?
It's a great question, and we are, as Jay mentioned, we are that business. We have about 160 folks, and so we are a smaller business. Of course, we're fully focused on employee benefits, so it's a bit of a nuance. As the world turns today, large companies not only have those benefit staffs that Ashley you touched upon, but self-insured employers are experiencing cost inflation of around, let's say, 2% a year, ballpark. Smaller employers in the fully insured market are experiencing increases of 5 and 6 and actually 6.5% a year. And so if you're someone who runs a company of the size like me, it's congratulations, you just hired an extra 1 or 2 employees that you have to pay for the same benefits, right? And so it can be tough, and we understand the sacrifice, the cost that Jay touched upon. But again, employee benefits, it's hard to think about something that's more important to people. And as the little guy and serving now hundreds of thousands of little guys across the United States, what we've learned a couple of things. The first one is communication is an incredible sort of asset. The second is, to your point around cost, Jay, I mean, the 200-person company may not be able to spend the entire P&L on employee benefits, but there's an incredible opportunity we're starting to see around the curation of different offerings of, hey, we might not be paying necessarily for this benefit, but we're bringing it to you, or we're offering access at a discounted price, and that's huge. Like, I mean, if it's a product that people care about based on your culture and values, it's an unbelievable. And then the last thing is, we've seen small and medium-sized businesses embrace technology over the last 5, 10, 15 years, again, compared to nothing we've seen before, whether that's industry-leading payroll or paid time off. Now there's sort of a whole new generation of technology solutions that can help tell the story of those benefits, what they do, the value of them.
Do you see that more being a la carte versus something that's programmatic and together?
It really, I think, depends. I keep coming back to what Jay was mentioning earlier around the values and sort of the strategy, and it's it really seems like where best practice is sort of like the holistic communication. Like, these are all of our benefits. Here's how they work together. Here's how they overlap.
Well, we all know that change is constant, so that is definitely going to be something that we're going to have to address. But as we look to the future with the variables that are ultimately going to influence the benefit offerings, what do we think that landscape is going to look like in the future? And Jay, maybe I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, but it's hard to predict anything about the future these days, so we'll try not to prospect too far out. Because the world is changing fast, the workforce is changing fast. So, we know, as an example, people are working longer. More and more people are working past the age of 65 here in the US. And so benefits need to shape around that. Communications need to shape around that. In addition, more people work remotely or from a different office from their manager or their headquarters today than they did 10, 15 years ago. I think another interesting thing for HR organizations is to think about analytics as well. It's more and more power in the data that we have in HR now. And so, different from the past, we can actually demonstrate impact. We can understand, the utilization of different benefits, the impact that those have on things like engagement, turnover. So we can be also a lot more intelligent about what we offer, why, and what we might change over the course of time based on what we learn about their effectiveness.
Yeah, I think that is a very important note to keep in mind, especially with the changing landscape. Sina, you're sitting in kind of the hot seat because this is the expertise. So what future trends have you been seeing over at NAIA?
Well, it's hard not to talk about AI these days, right? It just seems to be.
I was wondering when someone was going to bring it up.
I hate to be the first one, but I'll walk right into it. Where we really see the opportunity, both using AI, responsible AI, but also just generally, is over the next 5 and 10 years, employee benefits are going to become significantly more proactive and significantly more automated. Imagining a world where employees can go through open enrollment and someone can say, Jay, these are the benefits that we're predicting, that we're going to select for you. Do you have questions? I'd love to explain, but if not, we got it. It's based on your information. And then as you go through your year, say, Jay or Ashley, based on what we've seen, we actually think that this new benefit might be really helpful for you, or you haven't gotten your vision exam yet. It's not just about your eyesight, it's about early detection of diabetes and other chronic conditions. Or maybe as a last one, hey, we've been sitting in the background and auditing all of your bills, your medical bills and claims, and you're actually owed about $450 from this one policy. Let's go ahead and get that money into the household. I know it sounds strange. It sounds as strange as getting into a stranger's car that you called on an app, but actually the technology is now here, the data is now here, everything is here. And sitting with you guys today, I would absolutely bet 5, 6, 7 years from now, that's how employee benefits are going to work for people using, again, AI, of course, but also technologies that have been around for a little bit longer and are pretty safe and responsible as well.
Well, that is very exciting to hear. And even the fact of saying 5, 6, 7 years as opposed to decades from now, or thinking even long term with the way that technology works for us today is very, very exciting. I want to thank you both for being here. I've enjoyed this conversation. And I want to thank all of you for joining us. If you have more information, please head to adp.com/benefits for more resources on open enrollment, and follow us at ADP on LinkedIn.